Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh, when you see the true owl just descend meteor down onto this rooftop, that sinister smile, dude. Oh my god, that warped and twisted chuckle, just a chill ran down my spine. This episode of Rude, from a manga reader perspective, just one of the best adapted Tokyo Ghoul episodes. Straight up, the battle animation was beautiful. Oh my goodness, the feels, the impact, and the way they did those scenes with Yoshimura. Overall, man, despite the problems that I'm having with Rude right now, the setup is real. You have the true owl descending. To put it into context for the anime only watching, the first half is going to be spoiler free as always. To put it into context for you guys, remember during the Cochlea breakout with Aogiri, that twisted and warped creature that they said was owl, that descended down and scooped up Kaneki and Ayato. This is that same creature, because I was looking in the comments from last week's review, and a lot of anime only watchers, or not a lot of you, but a handful of you, were kind of not, it wasn't clear, and that's one of my problems with the series in terms of when Yoshimura gave the backstory about his child that is Owl and why he is donning, you know, the visage of Owl and, you know, impersonating Owl, had the whole CCG thinking that he was Owl, was they don't dive into that enough. They don't dive into Owl's, you know, backstory enough. Not to say that you're supposed to really, you know too much about Owl at this point, but at least the way Owl was raised and everything like that, and why Yoshimura is doing what he's doing. And you see the tragedy throughout this episode, in all honesty, with Irimi, with Koma, with Yoshimura, and harkening back to what Yomo said last episode, they've took this as their retribution to pay for the sins they'd committed, and simultaneously Yoshimura was drawing the attention of the CCG and, you know, the Ghoul investigator world onto him to both protect his child and, you know, take the fall as Owl, protect Anteiku and all of those he grew to hold dear and treasured and influenced their lives, and inversely they influenced his lives. Kaneki, Touka, Yomo, Irimi, Koma, and you see the flashbacks during, you know, fucking these crazy, like, three-dimensional scenes of just JUUZO flipping around, my boy JUUZO going in fiend mode, dude, throughout this episode. Just crazy. At one point, Shinohara catches him by the leg. He's just like, toss me back in. He goes and fucking flipping around with the Jason scythe. Oh my goodness, the animation was clean, dude. You have Shinohara, the other dude, you know, Hoji, and everybody going in, all four of them at once, going in, Yoshimura standing, fighting for his life. And you can see with the way that Yoshimura was fighting, it was really just protective instinct and kind of playing up this facade. There was no killing intent in Yoshimura. He wasn't really trying to harm them, and it rises these, you know, it brings to the table the bigger and deeper, you know, more tragic elements and the real nature of Tokyo Ghoul that Ishida pens, okay? Because you're left on both sides, just like Yoshimura said, you know, last week. There's evil and good on both sides. There's a reconciliation that needs to happen between Ghoul and human, and you see the sadness and the tragedy. But Yoshimura was not trying to harm them. He was just fighting for his life, and he held on to the very end. As you see those flashbacks running of him when he met Koma and Irimi, when, you know, the ways he talked to Kaneki and influenced him, Touka's life, Yomo's life, and falls as he stretches out his arm and he sees the visage of his wife, Ukina. The way they adapted these scenes, and granted, heavily, what's going on right now, I feel a clean, without spoiling anything, I feel a clean progression of just everything that's been building up with slight changes to Rude, like the Cochlea being transposed with the Kano lab arc, and, you know, Touka being on the scene right now, and certain other variations, you know, Kaneki being in Aogiri, kind of lessening certain developments, which is my main problem with Rude right now. But ultimately, it seems that we're going down a similar path with few changes. Okay, with the adaptation, just mainly manga scenes being straight up and beautifully adapted. Koma's fight against Mogen, dude, just flipping around everywhere, the fucking diffusion, he's dodging them and whatnot, and Irimi going in, That was the most fluid. That and JUUZO darting around like a madman were the most fluid portions of this episode. She's dodging, shots left and right from this dude. She's going in against Hirako, this fiendish dude that she mauled in the past. And you see the sadness of it when she protects the old lady and everything. And just this episode goes so far to confirm how beastly, building upon last week's episode, Koma and Irimi are. The feels just that's it. And Koma, honestly, you have to say that is the weakest link among them because he fell to moment. But granted, he fell to the element of surprise. Irimi, I cannot fault. Irimi is just a beast. Irimi's a monster because straight up, she was going in against Hirako. For anime onlys that don't really get the build up of Hirako, okay? Because it's very downplayed. Hirako's a very, kind of, he kind of depresses himself into the background. Arima's old partner, Hirako, that was going in, that Kaneki, made collapse and broke through his Quinky last episode, or during this episode. She's going against him, 3 other investigators, and she gets played with the old woman, and she was still going like a beast, dude. I applaud Koma, I applaud Irimi, I applaud Yoshimura. This episode did so much to really adapt those scenes well, give a sense of the positioning of the CCG more so than the manga did during this portion, and shit is about to go crazy. And I'm about to get, barrel into the spoiler portion, the manga perspective of this video, but you see the real owl on the scene. You see Kaneki versus AMON being set up, the final clash. Oh my goodness, dude. Shit is getting real, and this episode just went so hard. This is why, those earlier, derps for the most part, and, fuck-ups in the animation, like the Cochlear raid and everything like that, it was budgetary. And they definitely, pierrot, I have to say that they really did go in more so, like one of the better portions of their Tokyo Ghoul adaptation with this episode. They were going in like that first episode, like later episodes in season 1, with the fluidity of the animation, and actually making it clean, definitely allotting and saving their budget for these crucial and key moments right here. And then you have Touka on the scene. The very fact that Touka's there, even though she didn't do anything in line with the general progression, the fact that she's there is one of the keys, harkening back to the promotional poster, one of the key indications and foreshadowings of the different ways in which this thing's going to conclude itself. But anyway, let's dive in from a quick manga perspective. Spoilers here, so if you don't want to be spoiled on anything that's happening with the manga, and it'll potentially spoil you with reveals going on with what's happening now, just leave the video now. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. The few problems of Kaneki's recession and the lack of exposition on Yomo, Arima, Uta, and Ao overall and stuff like that, and some of the animation issues which were addressed for me in this episode, those are falling into the background with just how impactful and crazy this episode was. The feels were strong, and I genuinely was just captivated by how they did. They really did this scene in the manga justice. Let's dive in from a quick manga perspective. So leave the video now if you don't want spoilers. I see things going the very same way for the most part, like I said last week, especially with the title. Oh fuck! I forgot to mention Hide, my boy Hide. For anybody, see, the thing about it is, I don't think there's anybody that believes this anymore. But back when I was doing chapter reviews around these chapters for Tokyo Ghoul Part 1. There was a whole debate when Hide appears on the scene, right, and basically directs Kaneki down the path with Arima. There was a whole debate during that time that Hide wasn't really there, that it was another one of Kaneki's hallucinations and whatnot. Rude is doing a brilliant job of dispelling all those people with their bullshit. Okay, my boy Hide is fucking actually on the scene. He will go down, it'll be that same interaction that takes place is what I foresee happening. Okay, with Kaneki having to flee from the fight with Amon, all brutalized and fucked up. Hide meets with Hide, goes down the path with Arima. Granted that the external factor of Touka being there might make things go down a different way, and I'm really interested to see how that works. But it's great how throughout this series they really play up Hide lurking and being keen on things going on throughout. So I like that a lot. But the things seem to be going down the same general progression. You have fucking Eto shows up, Takatsuki, she's there as Ao, same way that she does it. So and it's indicating that, after things take place with Arima, I don't know if they're going to shift away from the scene and go down the AMON path with Kaneki first, so they can kind of lead things up with that. Plus, the title of next week's episode was like Deluge or Dirge of Flowers or something like that, you know, indicating the scene where Kaneki confronts Arima amongst the you remember, all right, amongst all the bodies and thoughts and everything like that. So I think it's going down a serious, you know, despite all the differences that have taken place, you know, in Rude and the slight subtle changes, we're still going down the same main path, except Touka's death is being hinted at and foreshadowed, and her being, you know, part of this scene and this sequence of events is going to, you know, might have a ripple effect and change things in a certain way. Who knows how it's going to go down. But Hide's on scene, Amon versus Kaneki is set up, you know, Eto's on there. It's only a matter of time before Tatara shows up and starts going fucking beast with Nora and everything like that. So I see, and Arima's definitely lurking with his portion of the mission as well. And then you got Washu sitting there watching the whole thing. Love the interaction between the CCG and seeing different positions of where things are, and building things up. You know, we got to see a little bit of Sato. We saw pretty much every crucial, you know, member aside from Arima at this point, and even the flashbacks with Mado when Shirihama was talking. I like the way that this episode was put together. So overall, great episode. Let me know your thoughts. I'm out. Peace.